6-3, 6-3.
Dance and a smile at the end, and we'll see the twirl now. You saw the.
So the expected retirement of Serena Williams will have to wait at least another day. The 23-time major champion won her first round match in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3 over Danka Kovinic at the US Open in front of a sold-out crowd of nearly 24,000. After the match, Williams was celebrated with an on-court ceremony that featured Gayle King and Billie Jean King, as well as a thank you Serena video from Oprah Winfrey.
It's been such a hard decision, you know, because...
Was it a hard decision? I was wondering.
Yeah, it's been a very hard decision because I think when you're passionate about something and you love something so much, it's always hard to, like, walk away. Sometimes I think it's harder to walk away than to not, and that's been the case for me. And so I've been trying to decide for a little while what to do.
But you clearly still love this game.
I do.
It's part of your DNA, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Also, I love it because it keeps you fit, you know, so that's a bonus. But I was just like, all right, well, I think now's the time. You know, I just have a family and, you know, so it's
Hello, family.
There's other chapters in life and, you know, I call it evolution, you know.
Serena will now play the number 2 seed Anett Kontaveit in the next round. That match will be on Wednesday. And here with us to discuss Serena's performance and her potential chances of a fairy tale finish is the Barbados Davis Cup captain, Andrew Thornton. Andrew, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. We have discussed this so many times.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. We've discussed this so many times on the Zone before. Serena and her...
Hearing.
You're not hearing? Well, Mariah, when he gets his ear system set up and he can hear us properly, a discussion we have had before because Serena is one away from the record Grand Slam
Margaret Court.
Of Margaret Court, and even in her announcement recently that she is about to retire, and as you just heard from her, you get the feeling that it's not easy for her, and maybe there's a chance she could change her mind. Sports stars do this all the time.
Exactly, and I think that is why maybe she hasn't come out openly and said, like, use the word retire.
Yes.
Because I get the sense that, Lance, you know, anything that you're involved in, you know, you do that every day. It's something that you love. And of course, you show up. She spoke about, you know, so many benefits of playing tennis, just keeping fit. And of course, her love for this sport. It's difficult to give up on things that you actually love and, you know, that has brought you to this point. Sometimes you feel as if, you know, separating yourself from that, Lance, can, of course, take away your identity. So I can understand Serena playing this sport from a very, very young age, because I listened to some of the interviews today from the names that you mentioned, and they spoke about, you know, the first time she held a tennis racket, and of course when she got involved in the sport, her mom was among some of the people present at the match, and you know, like the mom, eyes filled with tears, because it's such an emotional moment, not just for Serena, but of course the entire family.
Yeah, but part of the issue for her is that she has been such a fierce competitor. Usually people with that kind of characteristic as sports stars will tend to find it more difficult to retire than others. Look at Ash Barty. She is in her 20s and she just walked away from the sport a few months ago, and it seemed a pretty easy decision for her. But Serena is such a fierce competitor, and a competitor accustomed to success, not just success, monumental success, that it is understandable that even as she approaches 41 years old, she just wishes she had more to offer.
I get that from her as well. And there's something about when, one, you love something, but it loves you back. And when I say that, I mean you get the rewards. Because it's one thing to be trying to be a cricketer and not getting the rewards or whatever, trying to be a tennis star and not. But Serena has gotten that. And, you know, it's difficult now, as I said before, to separate herself from that. I think our guest is back.
Yeah. Our Barbadian Andrew Thornton. Andrew, are you hearing us now?
Yes, I'm hearing you guys now.
Okay, great. So Serena is about to leave the sport, even though she has not used the word retirement specifically. But we accept, do you, that she is leaving after the US Open?
Yes, I do think so. I'd be very surprised if she didn't.
Yeah. Even if something happens and she goes on to win?
I think so. I mean, I heard the commentators speaking that maybe she might stick around if she wins, but I mean, I think that would be the perfect ending. You know, I think she'd be a bit, silly's not the right word, you know, but that would be a fairy tale that she deserves, you know, to do the unexpected. Everyone's doubting her right now, and to win a major and, you know, potentially her last event, you know, so I do think that would be the perfect ending.
Yeah, well, her victory in the first round on Monday night came against a world number 83 ranked player. So in real terms, it wasn't a victory that, you know, would normally make headlines. But because it is happening on the stage where she's about to leave, a lot was made of it last night, wasn't it?
That is true, but I mean, given the year she's had and the injuries and all the issues, you know, I do think that was a big victory for her. You know, on paper, it's only the number 83, but very important for her to still prove that she still has it. You know, and the draw has actually opened up quite nice for her. You know, there's no huge contender at the bottom half of the draw where she is. You know, Kontaveit is number 2 in the world, and she is the number 2 seed, but she's having a very poor year by number 2 standards. You know, so if Serena plays well, I do think she has a shot. I had some concerns about her fitness coming into the event as I did going into Wimbledon, you know, but she looked good last night. You know, she didn't look like she did in Wimbledon. Wimbledon, she looked like she wasn't prepared. You know, she didn't have much time to prepare at Wimbledon, but US Open, we didn't know what to expect, but at some point she looked like the Serena of old. You know, she struggled with her serve a bit at times, you know, struggled to hold serve, but all the key points she played very well, and she impressed me last night for sure.
Yeah, you sound, based on what you've just said, Andrew, that you think she can beat Kontaveit, the number 2 seed, but you're stopping short of picking her to win, are you?
I wouldn't bet on it, but I also wouldn't bet against it. You know, we can look back to last year's US Open. You know, Emma Raducanu, at 18 years old, qualified. You know, that's never been done before, and she went on to win the title without losing a set. So if an unheralded 18-year-old who had never won a match, period, on the WTA Tour can win the US Open, why not a 40-year-old Serena who's done it 6 times before, greatest player in history perhaps, you know, why not? You know, it's not likely, but it's not impossible for sure, especially given how she looked last night.
Right, and Andrew, you mentioned her age, 40 years old. Do you get the sense that, one, it's a good time for Serena to retire, or do you sense that she has a lot more to give the sport?
It's hard to tell. You know, I'm listening to her interview. She seemed ready to move on. You know, she used the word evolution, and she said she will be involved in the sport. I don't know if she's planning on going into coaching or maybe be involved with tournaments at some, you know, but she has a family now, and she's always had other interests, you know, and she's been in the sport for a long time. I think she's excited to move on. It seemed to me that last night even she was prepared for that to be the last match. That was my takeaway. So I do think she's ready, and you know, I hope she gets the sending off that she deserves.
Definitely hope she gets what she deserves. Now, in the post-match interview, when asked, you know, how she wanted to be remembered, she said, as someone who tries, which may come across as very simple. But when she said that, the crowd interjected and, of course, started chanting GOAT. Now, that brings the GOAT discussion, and, you know, that is one that everybody has a lot of animated debates about. We tend to have a lot of those here in the SportsMax zone and in our meetings. Where do you stand on that? Is she the GOAT? Will she be remembered as the GOAT?
Yeah, well, across any sport, I do think it's difficult to have that conversation. You know, different eras, different players, you know, different competition, different technology, you know, and especially in tennis, women's tennis especially, there are a lot of serious contenders when you speak about the GOAT. You know, you have Steffi Graf, you have Navratilova, you know, you have Chris Evert, you have Billie Jean King, but I do think Serena is the GOAT. You know, a lot of people say that you can't look at the circumstances behind what happened to them and so on, but I mean, like she came from almost nothing, you know, and her dad pretty much taught himself how to coach tennis. You know, they had no money, they had basically nothing, and they willed themselves to become what she has, you know, and the 23 Grand Slam that she has is an open era record. You know, Grand Slams are a much bigger deal now than they used to be. You know, the draws used to be a lot smaller back then, you know, not as many people were allowed to play. You know, so I do think so. I think if you had to pick one, then I would give it to her for sure. You know what I mean? She's dominated the Olympics as well, and she look at what she's done outside of the court. You know, she's made a whole generation fall in love with the sport again, and if you want to say this, she's made a whole race fall in love with the sport again, you know, and she's had to deal with pressure that no one else has. So I would give it to her for sure.
I think she also needs to be celebrated for the longevity in the sport, because we all know, and we keep hearing more and more now, people are opening up about mental pressure, and we've seen Serena cry so many times. It's not a secret. So, you know, talk to me about that as well, Coach, the mental aspect of it, and how, you know, she would cry, but she would come back stronger the next time.
And that's what defines a champion, in my opinion, you know, because there's always pressure going into every match, you know, but she has pressure from all angles. She doesn't just have the pressure that she's got to win this match, you know, she's got all this hate she has to deal with from all angles, you know, she's got all these people looking up to her, you know, and I've never seen an athlete get as much hate, you know. People say that LeBron James and all these guys get a lot of hate, but I think Serena's right up there with it, so I don't know how she deals with it, you know. Without the tennis on-court pressure, you know, she's got mountains of pressure otherwise, you know, and speaking about age too, you know, she's got the record for most Grand Slam titles after the age of 30, you know, so that is an incredible achievement, and hats off to her for sure.
Yeah, Andrew, you kind of touched on it a few minutes ago when you were comparing the Open era with the period before, and pretty much suggesting that it's difficult to compare players over generations. But there is a view, which was made in our SportsMax Zone room this morning, that because she falls short of Margaret Court's 24 Grand Slam titles, she loses marks in the conversation for being the greatest of all time, the GOAT. Where would you stand on that, or how would you respond to someone who says that to you?
I mean, I can't disagree with it. I don't agree with it personally, but I wouldn't knock someone that would say that. But I mean, my response is the same. You know, back then the competition was different. You know, a draw may have 18 women, 24 women in it instead of 128 now. You know, the biggest knock that I've heard on Serena's GOAT status is that her lack of one true rival. You know, like if you look back in history, you know, Navratilova had Billie Jean King, Chris Evert, you know, Steffi Graf had Monica Seles, you know, and Serena really didn't have one true rival that pushed her. But my response to that too is maybe that's because she just dominated everyone else. You know, I mean, they had people like Sharapova and some others that any other era they would have won 15, 20 Grand Slams, you know, and Serena just obliterated them. So it is very hard to compare. I don't like doing it personally. You know, I know there's a huge debate in the men, and it seems to go with whoever has the most titles at the time. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go, you know, but hard to choose. That's my answer, but I would give it to her.
Yeah. Can you talk briefly, Andrew, about her relationship with her older sister, Venus, who just stepped onto the limelight a little before she did, a different personality, but a high-quality player herself, and the relationship they've had. They've met in a few Grand Slam finals before, and there is the view that because Serena is such an imposing personality, there were times Venus almost accepted that Serena is the big gun, and felt sometimes almost unwilling to challenge her.
Yeah, I've heard that, you know, and I know when they first came out, they used to say that the matches were scripted. You know, it seemed like one used to win, then the other would win, and people were saying that the father planned it. But listening to their interviews, even going back 20 years, you know, and even looking at the documentary, if you've seen it on Netflix, I think it is, I think they all knew that Serena was going to be the one to dominate. You know, even when Venus burst out and she was the first one to reach #1, first one to win a Grand Slam. You know, but she always spoke about how her sister coming up is even better. You know, the dad always said, Richard Williams always said, if you think this one is good, you know, wait till you see my younger one. You know, so I don't know. I don't know the situation behind there. But, I mean, it seems like they take it very well and they're all very close. And looking forward to seeing them play in the doubles this week as well.
Andrew, great talking to you here on the SportsMax Zone, a topic that is captivating, and all eyes are on Flushing Meadows this week to see what Serena does, well, first of all on Wednesday night, and if there's a script after that. Thanks, man.
Yeah, anytime. Pleasure to be here.
Andrew Thornton there, Barbadian tennis coach. And we go to a break. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.